and welcome to Daily Chapter Reading, a Life Reset Free, a true story about the love and faithfulness of God by Rena Groot. Chilliwack. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. John 15:5. A spiritual kingdom lies all about us, enclosing us, embracing us, altogether within reach of our inner selves, waiting for us to recognize it. God Himself is here waiting for our response to His presence. This internal world will come alive to us the moment we begin to reckon in its reality. A.W. Tozer. Our first summer at Circle Square Ranch was almost over. I was excited about going to Cambridge, Ontario to a YWAM Fine Arts Discipleship Training School. Inexplicably, just before we were to leave on what I expected to be the adventure of a lifetime, John announced he did not feel we were supposed to go. That was a shock and a huge disappointment. We prayed and asked God to show us where He wanted us. The ranch said we could stay and help them until we figured things out. John's sister from Chilliwack called at that time to say that they needed a teacher at a Christian school her children attended. We assumed God was directing us, so we moved to Chilliwack, British Columbia. That was a totally different kind of adventure from the one I anticipated. We woke up the first night in our rental home thinking the train was coming through the house. We were that close to the train track. I found out that Margaret Bennett, the teacher I thought was coming to replace, was only a few months pregnant and still working. I volunteered at the school but did not begin teaching full-time until about 7 months later in the spring. While we were still at the ranch, John thought he had work in Chilliwack. When we arrived, he was told the construction company did not have work for him after all. I substitute taught at high school and worked briefly at a restaurant to try to make ends meet. John could not find work. He was extremely discouraged. We moved into a more economical apartment, aka slum, but still found it difficult to make ends meet. When I did start work at the Christian school, my pay was very meager. I was under 1,000 a month. When I inquired about 100 a month raise, John and I were advised to curb our lifestyle. John was not impressed. It was a rough time. We burned through our savings for YWAM. One night at a prayer meeting, we told 3 older couples about our troubles. They prayed for us, and while they prayed, they also stuffed money into John's shirt pocket. It was very humbling. I will always be thankful for the kindness those dear people showed. We attended a church called Glad Tidings. They have since changed the name to City Life. A group from Glad Tidings met in our apartment on Friday nights to pray together before we met our street witnessing. One winter, we stood singing songs and handing out tracts on the street near Five Corners in Chilliwack. The photo for this chapter is of Five Corners. Some teens across the road started making snowballs. These were not regular snowballs. They were packing rocks in them. I decided it would be a good time to hide out in a store. I was about to leave when I felt God saying, "Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord." Exodus 14:3. I stood still, and I am so thankful I did, because I saw a miracle. The snowballs were coming directly at me, and about half an arm's length from me they veered off. It was wild. I could hardly believe what I saw. One Friday night, a man showed up at the street meeting who told us he was from far away. We asked where he was staying, and he said by the railway tracks. Our church had just purchased land, and there was a small house on the property. We asked if he would like to stay there if the pastor approved the idea, and he said yes. There was such an authority about him. He seemed otherworldly. We took him to the house and left him a box of food. In a month he was gone. The box of food was still sitting untouched on the table. He probably would have preferred manna. I hear that is angel's food. One summer, John and I thought it would be cool to have a 2-week vacation Bible school at our church. It turned out much better than anything I could have imagined. In the mornings, we had a 2-hour kids club. Dan Ham was asked to build a small castle wall for people to hide behind to change costumes and for puppets to peek out from. Dan and Mira loaned us their beautiful puppets. Dan built a castle wall that could have been used in a medieval movie. It was unbelievable. He used plywood that had huge stones painted on it. The castle had turrets and windows. It was pretty amazing. John was the star of the daily Bible drama. He was a pilgrim searching for the armor of God and the fruit of the Spirit. There was a beautiful princess who was the narrator. I was the director. Baby Shalev had her first dramatic appearance as Baby Jesus. We had so many amazing helpers. The first week in the afternoons, we had athletes from the Vancouver Whitecaps led a 2-hour soccer clinic. There were trophies at the end. Little Jimmy's skate club came up from Portland, Oregon to lead a 1-week skateboard camp in the afternoons the second week. There were a lot of skateboarders in Chilliwack at that time. John and his friend Nico built ramps, and Nico spray painted his truck to haul the ramps around in. There was such a big turnout, John and Nico decided to keep Little Jimmy's Skate Club going every weekend for a year. They received permission from the city to use a certain area for skating. Kids would come, and halfway through the skate time, John and Nico would have the skaters sit on their boards while they shared a message about God with the skateboarders. It was pretty cool. From that 2 weeks kids club, a neighborhood kids club went on every weekend for 2 years. The first year it was held in Harold and Joan Hansen's garage. They were praising God when John's fiery object lesson went away and the insurance paid for new carpets. God did some amazing things in our lives while we lived in Chilliwack. I got a letter from my grandmother's lawyer saying the bank where my inheritance was being held in trust was closing. He asked if I wanted the money reinvested or if I would like to have it. Grandmother had put in a 10-year trust fund because she felt if she gave it to me, I would give it all away. That was nonsense. I would have kept some. I asked my aunt and uncle if we could borrow $25,000 to be able to start building a house with the idea that when the money came from the inheritance, I would pay them back. The day the money from my grandmother's estate arrived, I called Alice and Bruce and asked if they would like us to go to their home to give them back their money. They lived about an hour and a half away. They said they would come visit us. That when we applied for the mortgage on our house, we had to tell the mortgage broker if we had any debts. We told him we owed $25,000. Bruce handed me an envelope. It contained a copy of the letter he had given to the banker. It said the money was a gift and was not subject to repayment. What a huge blessing. John finally found steady work. Chilliwack was really the best of time and the worst of times for us.